This just proves that Batman has a contingency plan for everything, even the next pandemic. Hey everyone, Darkspire Divi here with another McFarlane toy review, one that was completely unexpected and not at all planned or thought of, because I really did not have this figure on my radar, but saw him at Target, saw him in very rare quantities, and I don't know what it is, but there was something about seeing it in person versus seeing it on the website that I was like, I think I need to take him home with me. I think he belongs a place in my collection. And I'm pretty glad that I did, and that I didn't, waste the opportunity to nab him, because since then I have not seen him out in the wild at all. That is for Hazmat Suit Batman. This is an interpretation of the character from the Justice League Amazovirus storyline. I believe it's a comic book storyline, and I'm not too familiar with it, so forgive me if I don't really know the full ins and outs of that storyline and how it plays out. But as you can see, Amazovirus, new coronavirus, whatever you have that you could possibly throw at him, even the next pandemic, he is ready to take it on, because this is a newly designed suit that he made in order to protect himself against any kind of bioterrorist attack or biohazard attack. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but as I played with them, unboxed them, kind of took a really strong look at the figure firsthand, he's honestly become a little bit of a favorite, at least one of my recent favorites in 2022. There is going to be a link in the description if you guys want to get your own. It is an affiliate link, so if you use it, it will help out the channel and it will be greatly appreciated. As you can see, he still has aesthetical choices and design properties that are reminiscent of Batman. You got the gauntlets, you got the boots with protective padding, and then of course you got the cowl, but all with an extra layer of flair to show that this is meant to be a hazmat suit, just batified, if you will. You still got the utility belt right there. It's a plain and simple utility belt, but as you can see, working up the torso, you see these pipes and this detailing going on that, again, made this to be actually one of my favorite figures. Now, one thing that I did kind of look and notice, and I can't really confirm, but at the same time nor deny this, is that I noticed that there's some pieces that reminded me an awful lot of the Arkham Knight Batman figure from McFarlane, and I wouldn't be terribly surprised if they decided to recycle at least some designs, maybe not the exact plastic, but some design choices to kind of cut out the middleman a little bit. To me, most notably would just be the sculpting around the legs, as well as these shoulder pieces right here. It's the shoulder pieces glued to the side of the shoulder as opposed to the top of the shoulder, and the molding of them as well that reminded me an awful lot of that Arkham Knight figure. Now, of course, they made some differences and changes to kind of fit the bill better for this version of the character, but it still reminded me an awful lot of that figure, that I think putting them side by side, you'll definitely be able to check out and see how influential those design choices from the Arkham Knight Batman really are present here in the Hazmat Suit Batman. But again, they still kept in mind the storyline, and you still go see it all throughout here with padding on the knees and the shins, especially the shins. The shins are very reminiscent of that Arkham Knight figure. But as you go along, at least if you're going to imitate, at least make sure that the quality is up to par, and you still get that through and through. The molding and the sculpting and the paint job, it just stands out to me in a way that Arkham Knight Batman figure stood out to me as well. So if you loved Arkham Knight Batman, I would say you're going to feel pretty at home with Hazmat Suit Batman here, even if, like I said, it wasn't necessarily your figure of choice as you go along McFarlane hunting. It's actually going to warm up to you and infect you, if you will. He's even got an oxygen tank going all over right here on the back of the figure that then has tubes, not only connected to his torso, but also connected to the mask in front of his cowl, which is a nice little detail with the translucent plastic, and the molding going around there is also awesome. Now, personally, I'm not a huge fan of the grimace that he's sporting on his face, but then again, with facing a biohazard attack like he is in the storyline, what other kind of expression do you expect out of Batman? Now, I want to also draw the focus over to the chest area where you got the translucent plastic bat symbol. And the reason why is for two little details. One is that you'll notice that it's cool that they used the bat symbol to then form the larger biohazard sign there on his chest, which honestly I didn't really notice until a couple of hours playing with the figure. Not at first glance that I was like, oh hey, he's got the he's got the nice little 28 days later symbol there on his chest. I know it's the biohazard symbol, but that's what I'm gonna call it. 28 days later, because that's where most of pop culture knows that symbol from. They see that, they see 28 days later, and they see a zombie outbreak, and they know to run. Other than that, however, the other detail is that you'll notice that the symbol is translucent. You would think it looks like it should light up, and that's because there's actually a gold label variant out there, which I've read some places that it's a Target exclusive, and then I read in other places that you can find in other places, but for a higher price. I don't know. But there is a variant that is this exact figure, except he's got much more metallic silver pieces going on along the gauntlets and the shoulder pads. But the most notable difference is that this symbol right here on his chest actually lights up, which makes complete sense handling the standard version of the figure that you see before you're here, because as much as I enjoy the figure, I was quick to notice that this oxygen tank here on the back is conveniently shaped to house what is likely either a quadruple A or triple A battery inside. And as I played around with said oxygen tank, you'll notice it's actually a little bit on the loose side. It feels like it's bolted to the figure, but not necessarily glued tight. And because of that, my guess is that this is ultimately how you get to not only the battery compartment, but also the button to light up the bat symbol in that gold label variant that's able to do that. Unfortunately, this is not that variant. I'll keep my eyes peeled, but I have yet to see it, and chances are I'm probably not going to see it for a while because of how rare it is. But even with that functionality out, this is still an awesome figure. Wish it would have come with some form of accessory, because sadly this figure has no accessories whatsoever. This is ultimately what you get inside the package, but for the quality and the detailing that you're being dealt with here, I would say it's actually not that bad of a trade-off. He even comes with the patent 22 points of articulation that McFarlane is known for, and thankfully they are all placed in the right joints and in the right places, especially since, again, like I mentioned before, they probably recycled some design choices and aesthetic pieces and all that kind of stuff from Arkham Knight. So you expect a little bit of that DNA to be shared, and you see that coming through in the articulation. Now, sadly, because of some of the changes in design to fit the hazmat bill, some articulation's also not going to play out the way you expect. To be specific, just one, which is sadly the head joint. The head joint for sure is not going to twist 360 degrees. It does turn left and right rather well, and also tilts and pivots up and down, but due to the fact that the tubes here are connected directly to the translucent plastic here that forms this mask in front of his cowl, you're not going to be able to rotate all the way around without potentially tearing those tubes. So obviously, you're not going to want to do that. Then moving on to the torso, he does slightly twist at the top of the mid-torso, right about right there. Similarly, however, you also got tubes connected to the tank from this bottom piece. So you do risk putting a little bit of stress on those tubes, but thankfully, unlike the ones on the top here, there's more slack to give way, so you're going to be able to twist the torso much more freely than the head, but definitely not a full 360 degrees because of obvious reasons. No real waist articulation. It looks like there would be a cut in there, but so far I have yet to feel any kind of movement going on right there whatsoever. You do have the ball joints and the slight cut here inside of the shoulder that allows mobility of the shoulder 360 degrees vertically as well as outwards about that far. Of course, this shoulder piece is going to kind of limit that ever so slightly, but you of course have the inside shrug joint, as I like to call it, so you can give it that slight shrugging movement upwards and downwards. Two joints at the elbow. Now they both are able to move, but they are a little on the stiff side. But if you look over here, you'll notice he actually has his own little elbow pad, if you will, and I learned to use that elbow pad to get the movement of the top joint to move a little bit more freely, as opposed to bending it all the way and risk breaking the figure. And then of course, ball joints on the wrist that allow the wrist to be able to move 360 degrees depending on the angle, because sadly they are a little restrained by this rubber piece that's made up of the gauntlet, so be careful with that. But you are also able to bend the wrist at a vertical slice right about there, depending on where the placement of the joint is. And then you also got the legs, which are of course bendable and movable at the top right here, forwards about that much. It is a little bit on the stiff side because of the rubber crotch piece, kind of limiting a little bit of that along with the utility belts, but he's able to move the leg about that far forward and then only about that much back because of the butt sculpting going on right here on the back. You know, I'm done with that. I'm not doing that joke. That's a New Year's resolution, if you will. Enough with the butt sculpt. Okay, just once. Just once. I promise. I'm done. I promise. I got a problem. And then the legs could also extend outwards about that far due to that very iconic McFarlane joint that he's got inside of the top of the leg. And then 2 joints at the knee right there that, of course, allow bendability fully about that much far back. No problems there. And still being able to retain the protection by the knee pad piece right there. And then, of course, the joint at the ankle that allows movement about 360 degrees, as well as pivoting inwards and outwards. And you cannot forget the toesies, which are able to bend that far. Pretty standard and par for the course as far as McFarlane Batman figures are concerned with the articulation. And like I mentioned, it's because of how much they're able to share details and facets with that Arkham Knight figure that I feel were pulled from some of those better ideas and put it towards the Hazmat Batman suit, except with the changes to really fit this version of the character that, again, it really warmed up to me. This was in no way, shape, or form on my radar for a figure to get for 2022, and yet here I am decidedly thinking to myself, this could probably be one of my favorite figures of the year so far. So if you guys were on the fence as to whether or not you should pick this guy up, I'd say do so, because I'm actually finding myself quite in love with the figure and playing around with him even more so after this review. So much so that I'm able to overlook the fact that they recycled some pieces from Arkham Knight, or the fact that there's no accessories to really play around with or display with him and being able to pose with him. But that's actually just how awesome this figure is. The fact that I don't need accessories to have him look cool is awesome enough, and because of that, I highly recommend them. Once again, if you guys want to get your own Hazmat Suit Batman, you can use the affiliate link in the description. It will help out the channel. If you guys want to see more McFarlane toy reviews, check out the playlist that's on screen right now, and as always, stay humble. See you later.